you I don't know and don't love. You can swim in my pool. No, now whatever tells it. Other than in other humans, where I happen, throw up a coin. I would say you first, no matter what tells, because human life is more valuable. Oh, and then I get, I have no idea how much I've debated this. So, well, if people were drowning and a dog was drowning, the answer is if people were drowning alone, I would throw in cinder blocks. It's irrelevant that there would be a dog drowning. I would say a leap. This is very important. People don't understand what happens. Secularism leads to results. Jews are enamored of secularism because they're so angry at religion, whether it's Orthodox Judaism or Christianity. But they don't think clearly as a result. And therefore you get all of these positions that come from the heart. Humans and animals are of equal worth. The sacrificial system said no. But brilliantly, it did not want animals to suffer. Animals made it to the Ten Commandments. Their Torah's position on animals is awesome. There is an unbridgeable gulf of worth between humans and animals, but we may never cause gratuitous animal suffering. One of the 7 laws we obligate non-Jews to, only 7, is David in Achai, that they cannot tear a limb from a living creature and eat it, because without refrigeration, that's what they would do. Keep it alive. Oh, I like a leg. Okay, take a leg. No, that is not even allowed to non-Jews. In Judaism demands only 7 things, or demands 7 things from non-Jews. These principles do guide my life when I try to figure out this. Now I'll talk about what I said was the other elephant in the room, homosexuality. My heart says these are as likely to be wonderful people as any straight person, and I believe that, by the way. Not just my heart says that, so it's my mind, so it's my experience. Most of us know gay people. They run the gamut of jerk to great, like heterosexuals run from jerk to great. It has nothing to do with the individual's goodness, niceness, or kindness, but the Torah is adamant that God created Adam, God created the human being, male and female, He created them. Do not mess with that distinction. Secular life is messing with all distinctions. It messes with the distinction between good and evil. One man's good is another man's evil. It messes with the distinction between man and woman. An example, New York City has just, the Department of Health, this was in the New York Times last week, in New York City there is a movement to enable anyone who wants to erase the sex, the gender listing on their birth certificate. If you feel you're a guy and you feel you're a female, you can erase it. You don't need sex change operations. You just feel it, and then you can go into the ladies' room. You are, California law passed that if a man decides to start wearing dresses to work, he cannot be fired if he gets what I think a $50,000 fine. The obliteration of sexual distinctions is anti-Torah in the deepest sense. A man cannot wear a woman's clothing. It is one of the laws of the Torah. Maintaining this distinction as God created the world is one of the reasons I check for shopping. So always been taught to me when I went to the world, we can't understand it. It's not all that complex. If you look for why it is living in war, it's complex. But if you look to the principle, it's not complex. The principle is wear a reminder, or at least test for a reminder that God created an orderly world of separation. Separation is the most important word in the Torah because it's worded in Hebrew. Translated as holy, which means nothing to be holy. It should have been called separate. That's what it really means. Men and women are different. The moment you say that 2 sexes can marry, you are saying that there is no difference. And that indeed is why I debated this in Congress, and I debated this with the heads of almost every meeting. I debate regularly with Andrew Sullivan, the nation's probably most eloquent gay advocate. And the argument is there is nothing that a woman gives a child that 2 men cannot give, and there is nothing a woman gives a child that 2 men cannot give. Sex is no longer significant. It's sex meaning gender, not sex meaning the act. That is what happens in secular society, and it is the opposite of what the Torah teaches, that male and female are of the astonishingly important, significant, and do not confuse them. In George Bilder's term, one of the 5 books that most influenced my life, titled Sexual Suicide, society will commit sexual suicide if it obliterates those distinctions. Those distinctions are of unbelievable significance. And when we act like there is no difference between men and women, and that, after all, is what the secular university teaches. That's why the president of Harvard was thrown out, because he dared suggest that men and women have different brains. Something everybody who isn't at the university knows. It takes a graduate degree to believe men and women are basically the same. He himself, more interestingly, is a secular liberal Jew, Lawrence Summers, who was a member of the President Clinton cabinet, became president of Harvard, made this comment, and he gives an example. He said, I believe men and women were the same too. So I was born in college, so I raised my kids, I'm sexist. I gave my daughter shrubs. And then he said, what happened? She gave them names. Exactly. Boys don't end up playing gun games and shooting games and so on just to give them guns. Even I fell into that trap. I didn't give my older boy guns, play toy guns as a kid. So every single object in the house became a gun. When he finally started carving rye bread into machine guns, there was a story, a Columbia University woman professor was talking on my show. Columbia University professor wrote a book on men and women. She said a friend of hers, also New York, most sophisticated individual, decided not to raise their kids sexist, and they gave their daughter one Christmas. They gave their little girl trucks. They didn't see her for the next 2 hours. They got a little worried. They went to her room, totally quiet. They knocked on the door. She comes, shh. Parents say, why? The trucks are sleeping. Any boy ever put a truck to sleep? Your boys in the trucks, they ran that engine. Give a boy a doll, it's harmless. Because it conforms with reality as you know it, and not the way you were taught by the secular university. The Torah wants these distinctions made and not to live with nonsense. And it is nonsense. These distinctions are critical. And the Torah wants a man and a woman to marry. That is the ideal. It's not anti-gay any more than it's anti-polygamy or anti-someone who falls in love with a sister or a brother. It's not personal. It has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with the ideal that Judaism wants, that a man and a woman make love. That's it. That's the ideal. I'm stuck with it. My heart would love me to say we are all in it for love. But it doesn't. It has a whole list of people who can't marry. None of it is intended to hurt them. It is intended to preserve an ideal. You agree, you don't agree, is your business. I respect people who say the Torah is wrong. I don't respect people who say that's not what the Torah says. That's despicable. If you say the Torah says this, but I know better than the Torah, like Adlerstein said, I have full respect for that. But the maneuvers that take place within Jewish life to say the Torah doesn't really say it, that's dishonest. And that I find. So these are the questions that one has. There were so many others. I love talking about slavery. The Torah made slavery impossible without everyone saying slavery is bad. You can't return a slave to its owner. You can't kidnap people. You have to set them free after 6 years. I mean, just a whole series of laws. Finally, the Talmud concluded, Konelo Eben, Konelo Baal. Whoever acquires a slave ends up having a master. Because if you have one pillow, you have to give the one pillow to the slave. Might as well hire with minimum wage. That's my Torah. And I need to tell you the peace that it offers me. And although it's not easy intellectually, because I have to work through some things like drinking the potion when it keeps it adultery, eye for an eye, which is a massive step forward.